behemoth of a system that would cost $750,000, what Illumina did is it changed from very expensive lasers to low-cost LEDs, from scientific TDI cameras, scanning cameras, mechanically scanning cameras, to basically off-the-shelf CMOS image sensors. And the pumps and the fluidics were also simplified greatly. That results in a higher cost per base, but in a lower cost per reader, and that opened a very big market for them. And they had to do it defensively because Ion Torrent, with the PGM instrument, put had their foot in the door, and so this was a reactive project.
So who's this player? Who's this player? Is it Ion Torrent?
Right. Ion Torrent was a very interesting company. Basically, your question is very complicated, so my answer is a little bit long. But basically, what Ion Torrent tried to do, unsuccessfully, is to change the rule of the game. Right now, when you do a sequencing run, you have a very expensive instrument, and that instrument basically incorporates a light source to excite the fluorescence on the DNA molecules. Right? You have 4 different fluorophores. You need very high power lasers if you want to do very high throughput. It's not that the signal is weak, it's that the scanning time is very short because you want to scan a large area very quickly. So the number of photons that you actually collect is very small, even though the lasers themselves are more than 1 watt lasers. So they're very strong lasers, and you have quite many fluorophores. You don't sequence, so for every DNA strand that you try to sequence, you actually make something like 1,000 copies. So the signal is so strong that you can actually see it with your eyes. But because you scan so quickly, the collection efficiency needs to be extremely high, and then you need to filter out the excitation light and only collect the fluorescence light. So in any case, the idea is that the instrument contains all of the complexity. It contains the camera, it contains the light source, it contains all of the fluidics, and the substrate itself is a passive substrate. Meaning that basically what it's comprised of is a piece of glass. It has to be very, very flat glass to maintain the depth of focus. And it is functionalized with a chemical layer that basically captures the DNA. And basically all of the chemistry happens on the substrate, but all of the imaging and processing and excitation happens on the instrument. Now, what Ion Torrent did is, they said that they were not very original about it. I was managing a project that was trying to do the same thing at the same time, but what they said, no, we're actually going to take that complexity and put it on a CMOS chip. So we'll take a CMOS chip that contains an array of sensors, and that is also chemically functionalized. And so instead of attaching the DNA strands on a glass substrate, you now capture them on the CMOS chip itself, and the idea being that you don't need alignment, you don't need mechanical stages, everything is done on a CMOS chip. Okay, and the instrument is only an I/O to interface basically between what's happening on this micro chamber to the outside world. Okay, and Ion Torrent failed because we can get into it if you're interested. But basically, their instrument still cost $150,000 because they didn't design the chip correctly. But they still captured 50% of the market from Illumina, and they still have a large chunk of the market. And that was a big earthquake in the industry because Illumina was a monopoly for many, many years. And basically what Illumina recently announced is that they actually are going to come out next year with a CMOS sequencer themselves, which is going to be a low-cost tool. Okay.
And what is that tool called? Is it MySeq or is it something else?
No, it's something else. They have a code name which Firefly is what they call it. Yeah, Firefly.
Okay.
So Illumina has been trying to develop that. They basically acquired a company called Avantom that did CMOS sequencing in 2009, I believe.